let's see. Kailani, do you have a minute?
I do.
All right.
You need it?
Yeah, come on up here for a second, would you? Do you know how to play pool?
I do.
Okay, well, let's play some pool. Grab a stick here. Watch out, the table's right here. Yeah, it's a little hard to see. You have to look twice, right? Okay, so I'm going to break. Okay. Oh, I didn't get anything in. All right. Oh, behind the back. Oh, you got two in. All right, so shoot again then. Which one are you going for? Wow, that's amazing. Let me try from over here. The cue ball is over here now. All right, there you go. I got one in over there. Looking good, huh? Don't. Oh, where'd my stick go? I gotta grab another one. I left it somewhere. Oh, all right, your turn. Okay. You going for that green one there? Yes! You won. You're the winner. Let's give Kailani a big hand. Well, we were doing a little improvisation. I think Kailani kind of knew what we were going to do, but she made it work. Why? Because she said yes. One of the beautiful things about improvisation, and if you ever get the opportunity to watch the amazing show that I love, a lot of things are on YouTube, Whose Line Is It Anyway? Right? And one of the things that makes it work in improvisation is that you just say yes to whatever the person creates. You say yes to it, and then you say, and I'm bringing to that this. And what makes it so great is when you get people involved in, everybody's saying yes to what is happening in the improvisation. Now, improv is like yes, it's like life. Yes, and life is like improv. We get to choose all of the time. Are we going to say yes to what's happening, or are we going to block it and say no? And you might notice this in your conversations with people. When someone is explaining something or doing something, do you say yes to it, or do you say no? And so there's so much to be learned about saying yes, so we're going to talk about that today. This talk is titled, Just Say Yes. So, when we say yes, we open our heart. We open our heart, and when we do so, it allows our highest consciousness to come through. It allows us to be in that place of heart and love and to operate from that place. And it has a dramatic effect on us and everybody else. So our affirmation today is, say it with me, I say yes to life's infinite opportunities. One of the biggest things that happens when we say yes is that we stop resisting what is. Life can give us lots of opportunities to oppose things in our life, but I find if I can be open to what's happening and say, yes, and how can I contribute to this? How can I change this? What can I bring to this? And instead of trying to stop it and say no. So when we do this, we become kinder, right? Because we're not a barrier in the moment to allowing spirit to flow. Now, certainly there are times when it's maybe a better choice to say no, but I really want you to look at today and this week how you say yes, when you say yes, and when you say no. So often we can stop a conversation short or stop the love possibility in the moment by saying no or not affirming for the situation. You know, when we say yes, we have more opportunities. We have more opportunities to explore what the possibility is in the moment instead of saying no and stopping the opportunities. So when we say yes, we make life more interesting because we're opening our consciousness up. And this talk and this series I'm doing is really about rewiring our brains so that we experience the fullness of life in whatever we're doing. And so we're saying yes to all of the interesting opportunities that are there for us. Instead of saying, no, I don't want to do it that way because I don't like doing it that way. I know how I want to do things because this is comfortable for me. Instead, we say, okay, say yes. Try something different. We know that new thinking, new activities brings more energy to our neurons and to our pathways in our brains. And I think we could all admit that we want to have as much brain power as possible, right? Because we want to be able to use our brains, and especially as we get older, we want to really work on developing these new neural pathways and these brain cells so that we can live long and fruitful lives with our brains. When we say yes, we become more creative, right? I think that one of the beautiful things about us as human beings that's indicative to us and not so much other species in life is that we have the ability, really an unlimited ability to be creative. And we become creative when we say yes. We become created when we get that desire. Do you ever get that desire to create something, to make something, to paint something, to do something different? And for whatever reason, we can say no to it, which kind of, I think, shrinks us in and brings us back to this place. You know, I believe that as spiritual beings having a human experience, we have the opportunity to be creative. That's what we are. That's what the presence of Spirit, of God, of life, of love is within us. It is a creative force that is moving through us, giving us the opportunity to express our creativity. When we say yes, we become more resilient. Because when we just open up and we allow what is happening to be present, instead of thinking that we have to control everything, thinking that we have to do it in a restrictive way, saying yes allows us to be more resilient and just take a breath. And sometimes for me, if something is challenging me, if I can remember to take a breath and just breathe that in and to feel that instantly changes our attitude, our thinking, and where we are in this moment, just to say yes and be more resilient, more present. So I open my heart and say yes to life's infinite opportunities. So I got some examples of when we can say yes. For example, it happened a couple times this morning. People came in and I heard somebody say to them, "Oh, that's a beautiful dress." And the person said, "Well, thank you." And this week I was talking to somebody and I heard someone else say, "Oh, that's a beautiful dress." And the person said, "Yeah, but it's an old one. You know, it's really not my favorite. And it's, you know, I just wore it because it was the only thing that was clean." No, they didn't really say that, but that's probably what they meant. And so, and what happens to the energy when we say, oh, it's an old dress? What are we communicating to that person? What you're saying is not important, right? It's closes down, it limits, it restricts the opportunity for love in that moment. What if we could just say, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate what you're saying. Thank you. Just say yes. I like another way we can say yes is when somebody gives you something, right? Somebody gave me a bunch of bananas, and there's a few outside, and you're welcome to them. Somebody gave me those bananas, and I said yes. Were they all perfect? No. Were they all right? No. Were some of them like I didn't want to eat them? Yes. But I said, thank you. I accept them. Sometimes I'll be walking, if I'm in a larger city and I'm walking down the street and a Christian person offers me a tract, right, promoting their religion. Before, I would say no thank you. No thank you, I don't believe that, no thank you. And what I've realized lately is just to take it and say thank you. And then I don't have to talk to them. I can walk down the street and throw it away. But it continues love as opposed to saying no thank you. If somebody chooses to have a conversation with me about spirituality, I can say, no, thank you. but about a different path of spirituality, I can say no, thank you to that. But to receiving something and just moving on, I can do that. Another time we can say yes is when someone offers us feedback. Ever get any feedback that you didn't like so much? And what happens to us, I know what happens to me, what happens to you when somebody gives you some feedback that you don't necessarily like? What happens? Right? What do we jump into? I got to defend myself, right? I got to make you wrong and put up that wall instead of just saying, thank you. Thank you for your feedback. I appreciate that. I'll think about that. And Byron Katie says an interesting thing. She says, when somebody gives you feedback and maybe you don't like it, look at it a little deeper because there is probably something there that you can learn from, even if you don't like the feedback. Just to say, thank you. I like often to choose, let's talk about that later, or I will contemplate that and try and avoid getting into a discussion about it. If I have some energy about it, can come back later and say, okay, I'm in a better place now. Let's talk about that. When I was, just before going to ministerial school, one of my ministers said to me, Blaine, when you go into ministry and when you go to ministerial school, pick your battles carefully. And to me, that meant really look at, where I say no and look at where do I choose to get involved energetically with what could potentially be a battle. Oftentimes we enter into battles when it's not even really necessary. If somebody shares an opinion that we don't like, do we have to respond to it? One person says no, but our ego says, I'm going to stand up for what I believe. I'm going to make you wrong, doggone it. Right? And what if we just said, I understand. I hear what you're saying. And just let it pass and not engage in the battle, not to make it a battle. We can get ourselves so upset over nothing, can't we? When we don't even have to have a battle. But we can become afraid and pick up our sword forward and try and make a big deal out of something that really isn't a big deal. I like some of the things that Byron Katie says. She says, everything happens for you, not to you. Take a breath. I see some of you breathing that. Everything happens for you and not to you. Everything happens for us to have the opportunity to be present, for the opportunity to love. Or if we choose it, we can choose to resist it, to fight it. But the truth is, everything happens for us to become more spiritually aligned, to become deeper, more centered people. And if we can learn from things that happen that upset us, that can be a good thing too, because then we can look back at it later and say, how could I have done that differently? How could I have not responded? How could I have not gotten angry? That to me it's happening for me because it's giving me the opportunity to expand the way I'm thinking. She also says, I'm a lover of what is, not because I'm a spiritual person, because it hurts when I argue with reality. I love that. Isn't that great? When I argue with what is, what happens? I get upset, right? A situation happens in my life, and I can get angry about it. This morning, setting up our technology, it didn't look like it was going to happen. Right? And I really rely on this PowerPoint presentation that I made, right? And for whatever reason, the thumb drive that I brought here this morning with this presentation on it wasn't on it when I got here. So I plugged it in, and I'm thinking, okay, here we go. All my notes, all this stuff is going to be up here. And I had this thought. In fact, I think I said, this is really frustrating to me that this happens so often, and often with technology, stuff happens. But thank God I had the semblance of mind to remember that I had put all of this stuff up on the cloud so that I was able to download it from the cloud and move forward. And I was able to just take a breath and be present and have the peace of mind, the sense of mind, the patience to access what I had set myself up for to be successful. So take a breath. Everything is happening to show us the truth. I think she has one more. She says, you move totally away from reality when you believe that there is a legitimate reason to suffer. Somehow in our minds, in our ego, we sometimes believe that we are here to suffer. And that's absolutely not the truth. We can choose to suffer, and if we choose to suffer, then if we're spiritually conscious enough, if we engage our spirit, our truth, our access to what is real, we can realize that there's no reason to suffer. Our suffering is a result of our error thinking, our stinking thinking, as somebody said. Oh, okay, she does have one more. She says, you don't get to vote on what is. Have you noticed? Doggone it, even though we live in a democratic society, shouldn't we be able to vote on what is and what happens? Wouldn't that be great? Well, maybe, but it's not the truth. So here are some things that we can say yes to, you can say yes to. So say yes to something you like. That's something that you like. So going forward this week or today, if you find yourself really enjoying your lunch or really enjoying the company of somebody, just really take it in and say, oh, this is great. I like this. Say yes to that. And of course, there is another side of the coin, and that is to say yes to something you don't like. Something shows up and it's like, oh boy, here this thing is. I don't like this so much. But what if you just said yes to it? This is what is. I didn't like it when I couldn't get my technology working this morning. But I said yes to it. This is what is. There is no way that this information is coming to me the way I had initially planned it. And just say yes to it. And be peaceful in that moment. Another thing we can do is say yes to the twists and turns in life. This is what happens. This is what life is. This is what we get to deal with. Good things happen, not so good things happen. And just to be okay with that. And the next thing we can do is say yes to what arises in our minds. Say yes to the thoughts that we have, the feelings that we have, the thinking that we have, and just say yes to it. This is what I'm thinking. Doesn't necessarily mean it's right or true. It's just a thought. I'm sure, probably none of you have thoughts where you think, my God, how did I ever think something like that? Anybody ever think that? Right? Because we live in this universe and there's lots of stimulation moving through our minds, and if we acted on all of it, we'd probably be dead or locked up. But the truth of it is just to go, oh, interesting, look at that thought, and let it go. Almost like it's a slideshow. Oh, there goes that weird thought, and just let it go. We don't have to act on it. And another thing we can do is to say yes to our no's. And that, what I mean by that is to look at, what do you say no to? Do you say no to eating good? Do you say no to exercising? Do you say no to getting together with a friend? And what do you say no to? You have an amazing amount of power. You get to decide. So look this week at, what do I say no to? And the next one is to say yes to being alive and enjoying every moment that you have. Every moment. And in the same way, we say yes, just say yes to being alive. Say yes to whatever you're doing, saying yes to driving, saying yes to eating, saying yes to being in communication with a friend or a relative, or to say yes to being at Unity on Maui on Sunday morning, and just say yes. And instantly our energy rises. Our brain starts to go, whew, and then all these neural pathways start to connect, and all these channels are moving, and we just say yes. Yes to being here. Yes to being present. I like this one too. And just imagine that life is whispering yes to you. Spirit is whispering yes. God is whispering yes. Your heart is saying yes. Your heart just wants to love. Your spirit just wants to love. And just say yes. The universe is saying yes. And I'm going to close with this poem from Rumi titled, Say Yes Quickly. Forget your life. Say God is great. Get up. You think you know what time it is? It's time to pray. You've carved so many little figures. Too many. Don't knock on any random door like a beggar. Reach your long hands out to another door. Beyond where you go on the street. Reach to the street where everyone says, how are you? And no one says, how aren't you? Tomorrow, you'll see what you've broken and torn tonight. thrashing in the dark. Inside you, there's an artist that you don't even know about. He's not interested in how things look different in moonlight. If you are here unfaithfully with us, you're causing terrible damage. If you opened your loving to God's love, you're helping people you don't even know or that you've never even seen. Is what I say true? Answer yes quickly. If you don't know, if you've known it, maybe you have known it from the universe when everything began. I open my heart and say yes to life's infinite possibilities. Let's say that together. I open my heart and say yes to God's infinite possibilities. So I invite you to close your eyes. And we're going to do a Thich Nhat Hanh meditation. And I invite you just to close the eyes. Close your eyes to everything but being present right now. Just to be here in this moment. Perhaps taking a breath, breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Relaxing, saying yes to this moment, to this meditation. Thich Nhat Hanh says, breathing in feels something positive. Breathing in feels something positive. Breathing in, feeling something positive. And breathing out and say yes. Breathing in, something positive. Breathing out, saying yes. Breathing in energy. Breathing out, yes. Breathing in energy. Breathing out, yes. Breathing in calmness. Breathing out, yes. Breathing in love. Breathing out, yes. Breathing in peace. Breathing out, yes. And I invite you to continue the inward and outward flow of the breath for just a few moments. Breathing in and breathing out. And slowly and gently begin to bring your awareness back to this moment. Breathing in, breathing out, yes. And I invite you to open your eyes whenever you're ready. It's every Monday, and I just heard today that more people are coming, and it's an exciting group with great discussions. So that's happening right here in our sanctuary on Monday. Also, Mike is doing a hike on Saturday, October 29th. It's the La Perouse hike, and you might know it's quite a rocky hike. It's not real difficult, but you have to wear good shoes. I would certainly not wear flip-flops and probably not sandals. It's a good time to break out your hiking boots or your tennis shoes. It's an amazingly beautiful hike, and you can meet here at the church at 3 o'clock on October 29th and go from here. And you can RSVP to Mike, and those of you who are here, you can talk to him in person. Mike, raise your hand. There he is. Thanks, Mike, for all you do. And our Thursday meditation is back. We meditate right here in the sanctuary every Thursday from 12 to 12:30. We read the daily word and then spend 30 minutes in the silence. It's a great way to reconnect with us and your higher self on Thursday. And next week, I'm continuing our Rewire Your Brain series. Well, my talk is titled Rewire Your Brain, Don't Take It Personally. There's a couple ways I guess you could take that. Not that your brain doesn't need rewiring, right? You could take it that way, or you could say, oh, rewire your brain. How can we think differently? And when someone says something that gives you a zing, you ever get those little zings, or somebody pushes your buttons, right? Oh, that just happened to me. Right? So when that happens, we're going to look at some strategies and what we can do to bring ourselves back to being present and not take things so personally. So that's happening next Sunday right here at 10 o'clock. And my walk your talk is in the back. It's a summary of everything I talked about in my talk today. If you're interested in trying to remember what it was, maybe you didn't rewire your brain enough to remember everything, and you can use some help, I put together this summary that's available in the back that tells you everything that I talked about today to help you remember and apply what we talk about. And I think that about wraps it up, ladies and gentlemen. So why don't we stand and take a deep breath, and we'll say the prayer for protection together, and then we'll do the peace song. So let's say the prayer for protection together. Together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us wherever we are. God is. God bless you, friends. Thank you for being here today. And much aloha and mahalo, and see you next time.